it's, if you're listening in on this and you find that no matter what, you just get sucked back into being on the tools, you get sucked into wearing all these hats and being somebody that you're not, that you don't want to be, then this is for you. So those are the 4 things we're going to touch on today. I don't know why I wanted to do this, but I'm going to put a little smiley face on the face. Okay. We will see you guys on the flip side. You owe it to yourself. It's only going to be 30 minutes maximum, might be less than that, but it's 30 minutes of really getting your mind in the right place so you can go to the right place and become the person that, you know, you're meant to become. You become the best that you can be, whatever that is for you. Catch you later, alligator.
Until right now, this very moment, contractors have always been on their own, not as tradespeople, but being alone and knowing how to take their business to the next level. They call us working class, they call us blue collar. They say that we don't have the smarts to become the business owner that we're meant to be. That is such bullshit. You have the ability. You're more than any of that. The question really is, where do you get the insights that you need specific to contracting to systemize your business so you can get your profits to pay for your freedom? I'm Andrew Houston. I'm going to show you how to make more profits, how to get more control, how to get more freedom in the simplest, quickest way possible without any of that bullshit. Welcome to the No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. Listen up, level up, and if you learn something, like the video, subscribe to the channel, change your business, change your life.
Okay, so there's something that I want the tables beyond what we've been touching on. Well, it is definitely related, which is this word called worthy, being worthy enough. I think one of the things that we struggle with as entrepreneurs, and I want you to talk to this, Liam and James, is we don't feel worthy enough to be successful. And even when we have success, those could be small wins, big wins, medium wins. We don't celebrate them. We talked about that a bit, but we don't even feel worthy enough, in our success. So, James, can you talk to that a bit? Or why is it? Like, what do you think is the reason for this?
Yeah, definitely for both sexes. I think that everybody experiences these issues with worthiness. And we'll look at really why that is. I mean, first of all, when we're referring to like a lack of worth, really the area that it shows up and the symptom that it comes out in life is when we don't feel like we're good enough for success, or like we've never achieved enough, like we need to do more. You've got a business which, let's say 10 years ago you dreamed of having a business with 1 employee or 2 employees, right? Now you got 30, okay, and you're like, still not enough. But I'm not doing $100 million a year now. I'm still not good enough. This house I built, we just bought an amazing, beautiful home that Soph, my fiance and I are living in. This is our forever home. It's awesome. It's just the most beautiful thing, and the builder who built it has done a fantastic job. And he fucked up on like one door frame. We got a little bit of door furniture, right? A little bit. He said, I was building this home and I should have done a better job. I'm like, dude, chill the fuck out. Like, look at this thing. It's a beautiful work of art. And you're worrying about the one little thing, that one little thing that didn't quite go perfectly. Who gives a shit? Like, I don't even care. And I paid a lot of money for this place to buy it from you, right? And so as long as we have those thoughts where we're not good enough, we're not worthy enough, it's never good enough, it needs to be more, we're going to be trapped in this cycle of insufficiency, right? And it affects us a lot, because this is when this feeling of insufficiency, we pass it on to our kids. So like whenever we have feelings of insufficiency or feeling like we haven't done enough, we actually unfortunately force it onto our kids, right? And we force it onto those around us. Yeah, through the way that we judge. Because if we judge ourselves for certain things, we judge them inherently. And it's automatic. Like, have we ever, like, as humans, have we ever said something to someone, like a judgment? Like, that's not good enough. You should have done this. You should have been better. That wasn't cool. And we've said it in a really negative way, and we've passed that sort of shit onto somebody else. And then afterwards thought, fuck, like, I feel really bad for saying that. I was a massive dick for saying that. You really wish you didn't say it, because it's not all totally true. We just kind of overreacted and we just got caught up in the minute. Like, we've just passed that on. Now, if you look at a kid, for example, all the kid wants to do is just love you and just wants to make you proud. Like, that's all the kids do. Like, you look at babies.
You mentioned something to me in a couple of sessions where we talked about, when you were born into this world, you were good enough. You were, well, maybe you can elaborate on it. You can say it better than me.
We have this feeling, a lot of us have this inbuilt insufficiency where we're constantly striving for more, right? We always need more. And if we look back and we understand, well, why do we have this insufficiency? We feel that we're not worthy internally. If we go right the way deep down into it, we just feel that we're not good enough internally. We need to be better for somebody's approval. Now, if we look at the negative self-talk that we have, if anyone has negative self-talk, you're going through this right now, where you say you're stupid, you're bad, you're anything like that, you're not good enough, you need to do better. There's always this negative self-talk. If you have that, go through and try and say that same negative self-talk to your child, to a baby, right? Go and try and say those words to an innocent, beautiful, amazing kid. It's like you can't do it. You just couldn't say that to a kid. Go find a photo of yourself, a baby photo, and say, you're ugly, you're stupid, you're not good enough. Like, try it. You would battle to do that. Like, it would be you have to be, a long way gone to be able to say that type of thing to a kid. Look at, well, why is that? Because babies are born perfect. Like, children are born perfect the way they are. There is nothing wrong with them. You, like, with your kid, could you imagine, like, just coming out of the womb, fresh as anything? Can you imagine saying anything other than you're perfect? Right? You can't. No way, because they're perfect. They're amazing. They're the best things ever.
No matter what.
So cool. No matter what's going on, like, they are perfect exactly as they are. Now, there's this really weird thing that happens, is that one day, suddenly, in our minds, they become imperfect because we're that kid, right? We were once one of them. And now we have these feelings of imperfection where I'm not good enough, where we have a hole, where we need to fill that hole with cocaine, with sleeping with lots of chicks. I mean, for young men, that's a big one. You need to sleep with lots of chicks in order to be a man, right? You need to have this in order to be a man. You need to do all these. You need to be successful in business in order to be worthy, to be a good dad. You need to provide X, Y, Z, right? Because we have this feeling of unworthiness. So one thing I ask is, well, what's the day where you became unworthy? Like, how did you go from being perfect to now all of a sudden being imperfect? Like, what day was it? Was it exactly at, 2033 days that you became imperfect? Like, when was the day where it changed, going from perfect to imperfect? When did that happen?
Mm-hmm. Liam, does this resonate with you? It definitely resonates with me.
Oh, yeah, 100%. My whole fucking life.
Elaborate.
Well, like, yeah, I mean, listen, I don't want to go, like, super deep on it, but what's like really, really funny that I've realized was, like, especially in the last couple of years, is that often the people that I would, like, judge as maybe simple or, like, uninspired or something like that. And now I look at some of these people and I'm like, man, these people are really fucking happy, right? Like, they feel like they feel worthy. They feel like they feel good about themselves. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's just so interesting because so much of, like, my 20s, I didn't really get to do the normal stuff that, like, people my age are doing because I was working, building a business, right? And I didn't get to, like, live that same experience. And I look back now and I was like, wow, if I had just thought in a lot of that time, if I was worthy or if I was present, right? If I'd done those normal things, it probably wouldn't have changed that many outcomes, like, in reality. And a lot of people that I thought were, like, lazy or uninspired or simple or all these things, like, they're probably way happier than I was.
And what's really the goal, right? Like, what's really about? And it's really about being happy. Net. It's about being happy, right? And I'll tell you, the same.
It's a relative term, though, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. But I mean, I'm 51 years old, and I wish that, and I say wish, but I'll just say it. I look back at my life, and there's so many moments where it would have been a lot better. I would have been in a much happier state of mind and a much happier person just by being worthy of myself while I'm in the journey. Like, I'm still in the journey. I think a lot of times our worthiness is like a retirement fucking plan. Like, hey man, once I get to, then I'll be worthy. Okay. And then it never happens because, like you said, James, then you get to the $1 million mark and it's like, okay, what's next, man? What's next, right? You're worthy right now. Listening in, you are fucking worthy, right? And it takes a shift in this mindset, this growth mindset that James is talking about, to be thinking differently. And it's not something like you have to work at for the next 20 years. You can start feeling happier and more worthy of yourself, like right now while you're listening to this podcast, driving in your truck. So, we'll start wrapping this baby up. I mean, James, if there was...
on that note, Andrew, the way that shows up is so funny because that basically, like, to use our tribe, right, with contractors, it shows up in literally everything that is probably holding your business back, right? You don't feel worthy, so that's why you don't increase your prices. You don't feel worthy, and that's why you keep around shitty employees. It's like you don't feel worthy, so you take on D clients. You don't feel worthy, so you keep yourself on the tool. It's like literally it shows up in everything, right?
Mm-hmm. So James, what would be a couple of the your last words of wisdom to, because there are very wise words of wisdom. What would be a couple of last words of wisdom as people are listening in on this podcast?
Yeah, first of all, touching on what Liam said, that there are a lot of those guys who are really simple, who weren't motivated and whatnot, but were happy. You don't need to be like that. Just because your happiness is up doesn't mean your productivity has to go down. And the cool thing is that if you do it right and you have the right direction, it'll actually be inverse. The more worthy you feel within yourself, the better you feel. You shift out of going from what we call scarcity into abundance, where you no longer give a fuck. You ever met anyone who just doesn't give a fuck about anything? And they're a savage. Like, they are super, super successful. If you can flick that switch, that is the thing where you're willing to do whatever you want and you don't care, and you'll have endless amounts of success. You will fire that shit employee because you don't give a fuck, right? Instead of this thing holding you back, like, I might not get another one. What happens if I lose the job or I can't fulfill? You're like, fuck it, I don't care. It'll come around. And then inevitably you fire them and you find this amazing employee that comes along, which allows you to double and triple your business. Instead of taking that shitty job, which is where you're going to have someone who's putting ridiculous time frames and is bargaining down your price, you say, fuck it, I'm going to go fishing with my boy. I'm going to go out and go fishing with my kid. You go fishing with your kid, you come up with an amazing idea, and then you go double your business, right? Because the more worthy and the more happy and the more amazing you feel within you, and the more you can do that, the more successful you'll be. The next thing after that is start setting boundaries which look after you. When they're on a plane and they're going through and doing the safety demonstration, they tell you, first of all, to put the mask on you, then apply it to your kid after that. The same goes for life. You need to look after you, right? Our business is our kids. We need to make sure that we take care of us, because if you're tired, grumpy, anxious, depressed, puffing lots of cocaine, drinking, not seeing your kids, doing all this sort of stuff, all of these things, which we know are not good for us, your productivity and your efficiency is going to go down. People will not be happy working with you. We coach a guy who literally could not get his business up and running because he was such a prick to his employees. He had the highest turnover of staff I've ever seen in my life, right? Stressed out contractor. As soon as we remove the stress and start getting him to look after himself, all of a sudden he lands the biggest contract in his life. Who would have guessed, right? His employees are sticking around and love working with him, right? So look after you. Apply your own oxygen mask first before looking after somebody else, right? Awesome. And then the third thing is figure out, what is your purpose? What are you doing this for? Mm-hmm. You're sure as shit not working 80 hours a week because it's fun, because it's not. Nobody likes working 80 hours a week. Everybody wants to work enough.
But it makes me tough, man. It makes me a real man.
It makes you tough. No, it doesn't. It makes you fucking weak. That's the ultimate. Stupid. That is the coolest. What is it? Paradox, right? It's like we work more because we're tough, but we have to prove it that we're tough to ourselves because we're weak. The ultimate sign of strength is when you don't give a fuck and you have total abundance and you just do not care because you, as who you are totally worthy. So yeah, making it so that you actually figure out, what is it you really want to do? Do you want to be like you guys and be able to go hunting with your kids? Do you want to be able to have freedom? Do you want to be able to work 40 hours a week on jobs that you love, like just super passionate about? Do you just want to be the best husband or wife or whatever? It's like, what is it that you want? What's your net? And once you figure that out, work with it ruthlessly. Like put your whole effort, like every single bit of effort into that, and do it with efficiency. Maximize your productivity, do it with purpose, and do it with abundance. If you can do that, you will be fucking unstoppable, and you'll have far more success than what you do in all areas of your life. Financial, personal, health, you'll have more success than if you come at it from the traditional way of, I'm not good enough, I need to do more, I need to work harder, grind, all that sort of shit. You will smoke everyone else who has that mindset.
Totally agree, man. Totally. And Liam, what's some of the last couple of words of wisdom from you?
No, this is just like James got my gears turning, because I was just thinking about like some of the most amazing people in the PFC family, some of the most like successful members. What do they all have in common? Is like all those things James just said, right? When I think of guys like Peter McGrath or like Cam or John, or like, you know, like Stefan just in the podcast, right? Like they're fucking doing the shit they love. They're off hunting and, you know, surfing and fishing and golfing, and they just don't give a fuck. And they like, isn't that funny?
That's interesting,
right?
Isn't
Isn't that funny? You know?
You know, I think, anything else you'd add?
I mean, like, listen, every business is the same and every business is different, like inherently. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if you, like most contractors, I think generally like 80-90% of them, the reason that they got into business or they started a business is they're working for somebody else and they're like, fuck this, I can do it better. Right? Whether that's I can treat the clients better, I can be a better employer, I can do the work faster, I could be less of a prick, whatever it is, right? That's like primarily, you know what I mean? Like that's primarily the reason that most people, or it's out of necessity. It's just like, shit, like I have these skills and I need some money, and it's like, it just, you know, that often happens, right? Someone just like takes a job and then another job and then another job, and all of a sudden they got a business. But most people fall into that first camp. And don't forget why you started it, right? And it's very easy to become like James and you were talking about, how a lot of us end up doing the exact same things that our parents did, right? That like we hated, or the traits that we despised about them, right? Or the things that we're like, man, I'm never going to be like that. I'm never going to do those things my dad did, right? And then we start doing them. And it's the same thing. Like you started your business to not be that guy, right? To not be that dick, to create a better environment for your team, for your family. So just keep that in mind, because that's the reason, like what James said, that's your purpose, probably, most likely, if you're a contractor.
Love it. Okay, so here's my last words of wisdom. I think one of the most important things is to know it's never too late. Okay?
Gary Vee style. Nice.
Yeah, it's never too late, right? It's never too late for us to make a difference in our own selves and in the environment around us and the people that we're helping. And it's never too late. These things don't, you know, it is constant working on yourself, you know, growth mindset, become, you know, the best person that you can become. But my main point on that one is just, it's never too late. So, you know, to do that, you know, to make the most out of the moment that you have in this time right now, you know, wherever you are, wherever you're listening, whatever you're doing, you need to surround yourself with people that are beyond you. Okay. I don't know the shit that James knows. I don't know the stuff that Liam knows. I mean, there's maybe a lot of common threads, principles, values, but I don't know what he knows. And I'm not going to make any bullshit, hence the No Bullshit podcast, to myself to say that I do. So honestly, everybody, stop bullshitting yourself. To think that you're going to figure this out on your own. You don't need to figure it out on your own, whether it's through James, whether it's through Liam, whether it's through some other source. But don't do this journey alone, because I'll tell you what, I do have some regret. That's the reality. That I went a long ways through life, hard knocks, old school, first generation, you know, parents coming over from Ireland, what have you, like just the work ethics, okay, of that type of mindset. And I missed out on a lot of things where I could have been happy in the moment, being present. So don't let it happen any further with you. Stop the bullshit. Stop bullshitting yourself, and have a better and happier life. So, James, how can they get in touch with you?
Just type in James Cairns. On Facebook is going to be the easiest way. If you type it in on the internet, it'll go. Like, we've got pretty good advertising, so it'll pick you up. But yeah, if you just type in James Cairns, drop me a message. I'm happy to chat with you and help you out with whatever you need. Literally just come in and let me know what you want to be better with. And I've probably got a resource for you. If I don't have a resource for you that can help you, I'll make you one. Cool.
Love it. Abundant mindset, bro. Okay, Liam, how do they engage with us?
Well, you're already in this group, right? Watching this live, or you're listening to this podcast. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're not in the group, just type in Facebook, Profit for Contractors, just like James said.
Same thing.
You can Google us and get pixeled. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. By the way, you know, it's interesting that you brought that up because, you know, there's, you know, over 10,000 members in this group. So you just being in this group, I'm just going to let you know, means that you're not alone. I mean,
it means you're in the top 10% already.
You're already right. You're in the top 10%.
In the top 10%.
Absolutely.
Just listening to this podcast, joining this group.
Top 10% of what, though, Liam? Of what?
Contractors.
But in what way?
Business owners. Of like that, you're like of chances of succeeding, and you're in the winner's
yes, circle. Exactly. You're in the winner's circle. Okay. It sometimes takes just that little next step, guys, to actually, even though you can be surrounded by 10,000 people, if you're not engaging, you're not raising your hand for help. Okay. All you are is somebody sitting in the corner with a room filled with 10,000 people, and you're still alone. Don't be alone. Don't do it alone. Be active. Raise your hand. Ask for help. Trust me. 99% of all the shit that you're dealing with and the hassles and challenges, okay, somebody else has dealt with them and somebody else has solved them. If it's on the mindset side, like on James's side, if it's on the tactical, on the business side of things, you know, it's brought for contractors, but don't do it alone. And that's it. That's all. So, guys, we'll see you on the flip side. James, thank you so much. Thank you, Liam, for being on today's podcast. You guys brought a shitload of value. Be happy, guys. Don't worry. Be happy. We'll see you guys on the flip side. Ciao.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, man, for sure.
Hey, Rockstar, I hope you enjoyed that one. And if you did like this one, join our private Facebook group, Profitable Contractors Association. It's one of the biggest communities for contractors with over 10,000 members, where you get the latest insights to help you delegate, dominate, and deliver so you can take your contracting business to a whole nother level.